hear me in the back?
Yes.
Can you understand me?
Yes.
Okay. Well, I want to say thank you to Ali for having me here. It's a brother that I met in Malaysia. I'm the only survivor of 9/11, 9/11, the event that changed our world, that has gone to Muslim countries to talk about what happened. And it was an experience, first time, because when I was invited to Malaysia, the first time, they told me, don't go to Malaysia. I said, why? He said, because they're Muslim there. They're going to kill you there. I said, well, I'm going over there. And I was very surprised so much that of the love and the embrace that I received from the community that I became a Muslim. Now, 9/11, it changed my life. 9/11 was that event that changed the United States history. It was the biggest attack we have ever received. And also it created the new policy of the United States, the international policy. It changed the new millennium. On 9/11, or the events of 9/11 has been used for 2 wars, for the erosion of civil rights, and the whole process of basically taking the international policy called the politics of fear. In my case, it changed my life because on 9/11, I lost 200 friends, 200 people that I will never see again. 9/11 was also the defining moment of my life because I became an activist. The World Trade Center was a complex of 7 buildings. It was the center of international commerce. The World Trade Center has 110 floors on each building, very tall. It was a city within a city. The World Trade Center has more than 50,000 workers, 50,000 people in those complexes over there. Over 200,000 visitors every day, 21,800 windows, 104 elevators in each building. Each building has 104 lifts and 1,350 feet of height of each building as well. The new building that is going to be built on ground zero, it's called the Liberty Tower, will be higher. It will be 1,776 feet tall. What happened to me on 9/11? On 9/11, I woke up late. It was a beautiful day, so I called my boss and I said, I'm not going to work. And my boss got very angry. He said, what's wrong with you, Willie? You have to make it to work. Please make it to work. The reason that he said that was because I was the person in charge of cleaning 110 floors of stairwells. All the stairs for the building, I have to clean them inside. So if I didn't go to work, that meant that they have to send somebody to do my job. And nobody wanted to do my job. Because have you ever tried to do 110 flights of stairwells? It's bad. It's very bad. Your legs will tremble so much that you will take days to recover. Imagine only if you made 25 floors of stairwells, it will be so painful for you. It took me, I worked in the building for 20 years of my life, and it took me 10 years to be able to acclimatize my body to be able to do that. So of course, he was begging me, please make it to work, make it to work. So I said, okay, I'm gonna make it to work. But you, please take care of my card, the card that you put on the clock, time clock, so I could recover. I made it to work. I made it to the North Tower. There was the South Tower and the North Tower. My company, American Building Maintenance, was located on the North Tower. I went straight to the basement. There were 6 levels of basement on each building. And they connected between both buildings. It was basement 1, basement 2, basement 3, up to basement 6. So I went to basement 1 to punch my card to start the work of the day. While I was talking to the supervisor, Anthony Saltaramaque, there were 14 people inside the area of the office. And while we're talking, at 8:46, we hear, BAM! An explosion so powerful and so loud that brought us up. It just lifted us up. All the walls on the top fell on top of us. The walls cracked. The sprinkler system got activated. And all the water started going crazy all over. You saw water everywhere. And of course, everybody's screaming. Everybody's yelling. Everybody was disoriented. It was horror. It became terror because when I went to say something at that moment, because the first thing that came to my mind was that a generator blew up on the mechanical room that was located on the basement number 2, because I felt this explosion. So when I went to mention it, 6 to 7 seconds later, we hear, BAM! Another explosion, very powerful, and then you hear the walls cracking. Remember, the building was designed to oscillate because they were so tall because of the wind factor. But they oscillated so much that you could hear the cracking and the fax machine falling on the floor, and then now everybody's screaming. They didn't know what to do. And at that moment, a person started coming through the corridor saying, explosion, explosion, explosion. A person that I did not know, I didn't know him. A black guy named Felipe David. As he gets closer, he's going like this, explosion, explosion. What appears to be cloth hanging from the top of the fingertips, it wasn't cloth. As he got closer, we realized, oh my God, oh my God. His skin was pulled from under his armpits on both arms, and he peeled off, and it was hanging like a piece of cloth. Like when you take off a glove and you let it hanging, and it was hanging. And then we realized that it was his skin. We started crying and screaming, oh my God, oh my God. And the shirt that he had, it was a red shirt, but it was red because of the blood. It was soaked in blood. 33% of his body was burned. And nobody wanted to touch him. Why? Because it was in 2001. And they said anybody, you know, the AIDS was the big scare. That you don't touch anybody with blood. You don't touch anybody with blood. So nobody wanted to help the poor man. And I said, no, we gotta help him. So I went inside the office and I took towels, cleaning towels, and I started putting it around his arms so he wouldn't bleed that much. And I said, please don't move, please. Because I went to pick up the phone inside the office to call the emergency medical unit that was located on the other tower. You see, like I said, they connected through the basement, so if I call for an emergency, they will come right away. So I went to pick up the phone and I go inside, please don't move. And I went to touch the phone and BAM! Another explosion. A very powerful explosion. And at that moment, everybody started running inside the office because the floor is moving. They thought it was an earthquake. Because they're going under the door frame trying to cover themselves in a bunch, the 14 people. And my supervisor is screaming, it's a bomb, it's a bomb. Why? Because we have no windows. We're in the basement. We have no way to tell what was going on. We have no idea. And at that moment, I realized, no, we have to get out of here. You see, I survived in 1993 in the same building. There was the van that blew out with explosives and killed 6 people, and 1,000 people were injured. So I survived. I was 20 years in the building. So I acted right away by osmosis. I said, we gotta get out, we gotta get out, we gotta get out. I started pushing everybody out, and I took Mr. Felipe David, the man that was burned, put it on my shoulder, and I started leading the group from the area of the office all the way to the loading dock, where they have all the trucks coming inside the building. Chaos. It was horrible. Everybody screaming, water everywhere, and then to get out from the basement, you have to go up a hill. So we go up the hill, I let everybody out, And then there's an ambulance coming. We make it outside on the street. There's an ambulance coming. I stop the ambulance and say, we gotta do something. We put the man inside the ambulance, and that's when I hear for the first time, a plane hit the building, a plane hit the building. I have no idea that a plane hit the building. And I wanted to hear, or to look, where is that sound coming from? So I look around the ambulance, and what do I see? Everybody on the street with their mouth open looking up. And the radio transmission, that's what it was, a radio transmission, from the security guard that allowed trucks to come inside the building, saying a plane hit the building. So when I turned around and I looked up, I saw the hole, I saw the fire, I saw the smoke, I saw the debris coming down, and I said, oh my God, the people from Windows. And I meant the people from windows of the world. On the top of the building, on the 106th floor, there was a restaurant all the way on the top. You see what the antenna is? There was a restaurant. And I said, oh, we gotta go back, we gotta go back, we gotta go. Nobody wanted to go back. My supervisor said, Rodriguez, you stay here, you're not going back in. He said, we gotta go back, we gotta help those people. You see, it was a miracle that I was outside. Because if I made it to work at 8 o'clock, I will go every morning to Windows of the World, because I started cleaning the stairwells from the top of the floors down. And I was on the restaurant every day because they gave me breakfast for free. And you know, when they give you something for free, you're going to be on time. So I figured, you know, my friends are stuck in there. We got to help my friends. Nobody wanted to move. I took the radio from the security guy and said, let's go, let's go. And when I realized nobody was behind me, I'm running by myself inside the building. I went straight to the south tower, through the basement, to an area called the OCC, the Operation Control Center, where they actually managed everything that was disaster after the bomb of 1993. Any emergency, it was done there. But what a surprise. I started hitting with the radio, help, 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 the window, and nobody was there. Everybody ran away. I see a man coming from the south tower, say, Willie, what's going on? The name Jimmy Barrett. I say, Jimmy, didn't you hear what happened? You got to get out because there was an explosion and a lot of people got hurt. There's a man that was burned. You got to get out now. He didn't know. That gives you an indication how many people died on the south tower, lower levels, on the sub-levels, without ever knowing. So I said, you got to get out. And then between the two buildings, there was an employee entrance area for the Marriott Hotel. There was a Marriott Hotel. And what do I see there? A podium and a security guard that signed the people, the employees inside. They're trembling, shaking, all scared. I said, what are you doing here? You got to get out. What's wrong with you? She said, I heard everything, but I cannot leave. I said, why? Listen what she said. She said, because I am a new employee and I don't want to get fired. The wrong sense of responsibility. What would you have done in a situation like that? Would you stay? Would you run? Run. But you don't remember, when you don't have the right information, you cannot take action. Why do I say that? You here in Egypt, you have better information on TV of what was going on in the building than we were inside the building. Why? The radios failed. We have over 1,000 people trying to use two frequencies. We have no windows, we don't know. But you have the cameras outside the building saying everything that's going on second by second. We did it. I grabbed that lady and said, you got to get out, and took her and basically brought it down and outside the building. And then I went back inside the building and everybody, what's wrong with this guy? Why are you going back in? Well, everybody's running out. I said, I got to go back in, I got to go help people. And I went back in again through the basement, and I went to the north tower of the basement where I was the first time. And I found one person who said, I hear screams, I hear screams. A lot of sound of the sprinkler system. Shh, the sound of the water coming out didn't allow you to hear very well. So what do? I put my ear in one of the freight elevators, and what do I hear? Help! 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 Two people stuck in there. I said, how many of you in there? I said, two people. And then something that shocked me forever. They said, we're going to drown. We're going to drown. I couldn't understand why. But it was because the sprinkler system of all the floors, all the water was going down the elevator shaft. And they went inside the elevator, and instead of going up, it went down, they lost power, and they got encapsulated between two floors. And they didn't have any way to escape. And at that moment, I was agnostic up to that moment, because at that moment I said, God, please help me. With such a devotion. And I was agnostic. And I looked down, and what do I find? A metal pipe. I took that metal pipe with the help of the other guy. We opened the door. The door's open like this because it's a freight elevator. And because it's open, all the water that is on my side goes in. And it goes in with such a rush that when I look down, what do I see? These two people with water up to here. Their stomach. And looking up in total horror. Please, help, help. And honestly, I didn't know what to do. And again, I said, God, help me. Agnostic. A man that didn't believe in anything. And at that moment, I said, the electricians always have ladders that they use to change light bulbs and things like that in the loading dock area where the trucks can't come in. But they always tie them up with chains and lock so nobody will steal them. Because you could go with a truck, make a delivery and say, oh, nice ladder, and take it. I still have one. So I said, please, let me find one, let me find one. And I ran to the area, and guess what? The longest one of all of them was not tied up. It was like it was there to save them. So I grabbed that, I went in, dropped it in, and you know those stories that in difficult times your adrenaline goes up and you start pumping so much energy? I was able to go in, get these two people out with the help of the other guy. We got them outside, we put them in an ambulance outside the building, and then they started screaming at me again because I started running inside the building again. And they're like, Willie, what's wrong with you? And I started talking in Spanish, so they would not stop me. No, yo tengo que volver porque tengo que ayudar a mis amigos. What did you say? Because I didn't want to be stopped. So I knew if I spoke Spanish, they couldn't do anything. So I made it to the North Tower again through the basement, and who I find there? Mr. David Lim. David Lim was the person in charge of the K9 unit, the dog that smelled for bombs, that smelled for drugs, and he's there saying, Willie, do you have the key? And I said, yes. He meant, did I have the master key? Now listen to this fact. There were only 5 master keys in the complex, 5. The first 4 were held by the administrators of the building that were trained on egress, escape, first aid, evacuation process. They're people trained to save people. They were the first one to run out of the building. They ran out. And I had the 5th key. And the reason that I have the 5th key was because in 1996, while I was mopping the floor, on the 96th floor, I slipped, hurt my back. The company didn't send anybody to look for me, so I opened a labor dispute. And I asked for a key and a radio. And they had to give me the master key. In case of an emergency, I could get out anywhere. Little did we know that that key was going to be the hope of so many people on that day. So, of course, I said, I have the key, let's go. We started going up. We made it to the lobby. That's Felipe, the guy that was burned. You see, there's missing pieces on his face. We started going up the stairwells, up to the moment that we get to the lobby. The fire department is there with all total craziness, the people screaming everywhere. I mean, the fire department waiting for an elevator. My my friend, the policeman said, follow him, follow him. He knows the building and he has the master key. And this unit of heroes started to follow me as I went up floor by floor, opening the doors. Now, why the key was so important was because the World Trade Center, under the building codification of the state of New York, established that a high-rise building over 50 floors and above need to have an encapsulation system in case of a fire. Meaning, 3 doors going up will not open, like 42, 41, will not open. Then on 44 will be re-entry. Then you can get in. Then 3 doors again will not open. 3 floors, 1, 2, 3, no access. That's why the key was so important. Because I said when the building gets hit, it swivels so much that it jams the door frames. So we started opening the doors, going in, screaming for people to follow my voice. It was horrible. Because again, why is this so important? Is that what you see almost 10 years after on television is the buildings. Just that. You don't see the people inside. Inside there were thousands upon thousands of people. Imagine you have a desk right next to a window and the impact was so powerful that all the glass broke and it got all over your body. You got, pieces of glasses all over your face, all over your arms. And the reason also is because after 3 days when that happened, the media in the United States self-censored themselves not to put the pictures of the people jumping out of the building and all of that because it was too painful for the community. So of course when you lose that, it just becomes the building. That's it. And we forget about the human factor. It was so horrible. People screaming, people disoriented, and the worst part was that the World Trade Center, with 50,000 people working in there, they have only fire drills twice a year. So mathematically, it didn't make sense because the amount of people that get hired is constant, the people that retire is a constant thing. They should have mandatory knowledge of what to do in a situation like that. They didn't. And the worst part was that they said that when there's a fire or an emergency, everybody should gather in the middle of the floor because they put those intercoms. And you will call, tell them what floor you are, and wait for instruction either to go up or to go down. That was a huge mistake because people is in the middle of the floor waiting for instruction. There was no instructions. The building got, all damaged. There was no way to get any kind of information. So of course, we needed to get the people out as fast as possible. In my situation, I was trying to get the most amount of people in the least amount of time out of the building. Friends, it was horrible. Smoke, the odor was horrible. And as we go up, I found myself that I was 2 or 3 floors all of a sudden above where the firemen were. And I was like, why are these people not at the same rate as I was? And I was like, it doesn't make sense. But you see, I didn't understand that at that time, I didn't understand that I didn't have any equipment in my bag. They have between 50 and 75 pounds of equipment. That's a lot. They had to deal with the uniform, the gas mask, everything. I have nothing, and I was in a better physical condition than the firemen because I did the stairwell every day. At least on that time, I need to do the stairwell. But I was up and down every day. So I was, very strong stomach, very strong legs, so they couldn't follow me at the same way. And as I do that, two persons come down. One of them said, there's a man on a wheelchair on the 27th floor. What do we do? He said, I don't know what to do. How do I help a handicap? I never done that before. And I said, God, please, what do I do? And I go to the fireman and I say, there's a man on a wheelchair, he's having an asthma attack on the 27th floor, what do we do? And they say, don't worry, we'll make it over here. We make it on the 27th floor, I open the door, and the worst thing that I could experience happened. The whole unit of my heroes, the firemen, I see them going inside and collapsing one by one on the floor. They took the clothes, they took their boots, they took their equipment, they dropped it on the floor because they did not have the power in their body anymore after going up 27 flights of stairwells. They have no strength. They all collapsed on the corridor. And I remember that the policeman said, Willie, do you know this floor? I said, yes. He said, where can I get water? So well, on the opposite side, there's a water machine, a bottled water machine. You know, got the little bottles. And he said, let's go. I said, oh, I have no money. I'm looking for money. He said, come on. He said, looking for money. We make it in front of the machine. And all of a sudden, the policeman started to break the glass with his foot. Breaking the glass. I said, oh my God, this guy is crazy. He's a policeman. I'm getting out of here. I'm the Puerto Rican. They're going to blame me. They're going to blame the Puerto Rican. No, I'm out. And I started going away. And it's hilarious because he said, no, Willie, come back. So I started taking trash cans and we fill it up with bottled water. And then we gave it to the fireman on the floor. And then I looked that in the office area, a fireman was using the phone to call, I don't know where. I said, wow, but there's a phone service. I gotta call my mother to let her know that there was an accident. I come from Puerto Rico, a small island in the Caribbean, very small island. You know, Ricky Martin, Jennifer Lopez, from there. So I said, let me call my mother. I called my mother thinking that she doesn't know anything. The whole world knew. Everybody was watching this on television. She picked up the phone. Willie, where are you? I said, I'm in the building. There's a fire. I said, the building is on fire. What are you doing there? And my mother is terribly horrified about the whole thing. She said, please, Willie, leave the building. Don't go to the top of the building. I said, Mom, don't worry. I'm okay. I'm complete. Nothing is missing. And in my ignorance, I said, I'm helping these people. They don't know what they're doing. They have no idea what they're doing. I will help them up to a certain area and then I will leave. But I lied to my mother. I lied to my mother because if it was for me up to that moment, I would have gone through the fire to try to get to my friends. And I said, I'll call you later. And I hung up the phone. And because I saw the firemen on the floor, I continued by myself, going up, opening doors, letting people out, floor by floor, up to the moment that I get to the 33rd floor. On the 33rd floor, I find a lady on the floor trembling. No shoes, American lady, red shirt, I said, with red dress. I said, what are you doing? And then she said, more or less what the lady on the other side said. Said, I'm new here, I don't know what to do. She was terrified because she had no knowledge of what to do in an emergency. So she is on the floor trembling. And I said, please, come. And I grabbed her, brought her to the stairwell. There were people coming down from the cafeteria. And one of them said, Willie, can I help you? And I said, please, help me with this lady. And we started bringing this lady floor down, by floor down. I stayed on the top, but they brought it down. This is on the 33rd floor. Went back inside the office area, and I went to an area that I called my office. I call it my office, but it was a closet. I have all the stuff to clean the stairwells. So I wanted to get a box of the paper mask that I use for cleaning the stairwell to give to the people so they would not smell the smoke. So when I went there, what do I hear? On the 34th floor, a floor that was empty, this noise, boom, something very heavy being moved around. And I got scared. I got scared because I knew it was an empty floor. And how do I know it was an empty floor? Because I used to hide there from my supervisors to eat, because I had the master key. You see? And I will go there and eat my lunch, and yes, sometimes I slept there. Yeah, but it was, you know, I knew for a fact that it was empty. So I got scared. So it was the only door that I did not open. I continue up to the moment that I get to the 39th floor, letting people out on alone by myself on the 39th floor by the other stairwell. There were 3 stairwells, A, B, and C. The policeman comes up with 2 of the fireman chief. And we're talking about what was going to be the next process of evacuation. And all of a sudden we hear, bah! Coming from the other building. But now, again, we have no window. We don't know if it's the other plane or the building falling down. We have no idea. And it was so powerful that it created a wave of a sound movement that it shake our building. It shake our building so much that all of a sudden we hear, bah, 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 inside the building. And we hear on the radio, we lost 65, we lost 65. Meaning the 65th floor collapsed floor by floor by floor inside up to the 44th floor. I'm on the 39th floor, 5 flights away. And I got crazy. I said, we gotta go up, we gotta go up. Now I'm desperate, trying to get to my friends. And the policeman said, Willie, you have done enough, but you do not get paid for this. You gotta get out. Like, you know, like you need to get paid to save people. That didn't make sense to me. Say, no, I'm going up, I'm going up. He said, you're still a civilian. Please, get out. And you know what I did? I said, I'm going up. And he continued begging. I said, well, I will help you up to a certain area, but I will return. He said, give me a hand with the man on the wheelchair on the 27th floor. So I will help you, but I will return. That's what I meant. I will go, help you out, get him outside, and come back into the building because I'm not giving the key to anybody. Because I was afraid I will be fired for losing the key. You see, ignorance. So I run to the 27th floor. When I get to the 27th floor, the man that was on the wheelchair was already placed on a rescue basket, which is like, you know, those orange baskets that you see when they do helicopter things that they save people. He was tied up. He had a plastic pump mask pumping air to his lungs. His name was Ed. And I said, I have orders by the policeman to get this man out right now. 3 of the firemen, as tired as they were, one of them said, we'll help you, come on. And they stood up, as tired as they were. And we picked the man on the wheelchair that was on the rescue basket, and we started going down the stairwell. As we go down, we hear the destruction and chunks of the building falling on all parts. And it was like incredible because we were like protected at that moment because nothing fell on top of us. We lost our balance when we hear the huge explosion from, it could have been the fall of the other building. We have no windows, no way to know. But it was so powerful that we lost the balance. I remember the man of the wheelchair, his eyes were scared. You know, they wanted to pop out. I said, don't worry, after this, we're going to get a beer. And I was like, I don't drink. I'm sure he didn't drink either. But it was just something to maintain the motivation at the moment. We made it to the lobby. When we made it to the lobby, what do I see? Total destruction. All that beautiful marble inside the area that was the lobby, all pulled out. The area on the left, that was the plaza that will have thousands of people every day, totally collapsed. Dust everywhere. One of the firemen come over and said, get the ambulance ready. Get the ambulance ready. I didn't know what to do. He thought I was a rescuer, not a janitor. I said, okay, so I go to the front of the building. When I go to the front of the building, the revolving doors were all gone. There was no glass intact anywhere. Total destruction. And when I get to what it was the frame, I get there, and when I look across the street, the police have the area cordoned out so nobody could come in. And they see me at the door and they start screaming, don't look back! Don't look back! And when they tell you don't look back, what do? You look back! You look back! It's human nature. And I turn around, I look back, and when I look back, what do I see? The worst thing I ever seen in my life. I saw all the bodies of the people that jumped out of the building. There were bodies everywhere. There were body parts that you couldn't recognize because the impact was so powerful that it was unrecognizable. And then when I looked down, I started screaming and crying because I never saw anything like that. When I look down again, what do I see? And this is what breaks me on every presentation. I saw the body of that lady that I helped escape on the 33rd floor, cut in half. And I started crying and screaming. And I said, she probably came out and said, God, I saved myself. And a glass from the top of the building fell down with such a speed, like a guillotine, cut her in half. One part of her body, one side, and it was the only one recognizable. And I started crying. And all of a sudden I hear, run, run, run. Everybody running away across the street. I said, what am I going to run? This is going to kill me. I have nowhere to run. And the only thing in front of the building was a fire truck. So I ran towards the fire truck, right under, and the building started to collapse right on top of me. Pa, 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 and the truck going down, down, down. And then I'm trapped, and the only thing I said at that moment was, God, please, don't give my mother the pain of seeing my body in pieces. Let my mother recognize my body. Because of the bodies that I saw that I wasn't able to recognize, I didn't want my mother to go through that pain. And then I get totally buried alive. Remember that dust of smoke when the building collapsed that covered the whole Manhattan? I was under it. It was so powerful that all of a sudden I'm not squashed to death, but I'm thinking that I'm going to die of asphyxia. And the first thing I do was to put my shirt right over my nose and to lower my breathing as much as I could and wait for death, not for help. I was waiting for death. I knew it was going to be a slow death. I was going to die very slow. And the only thing in my mind at all moment was my mother. My mother. And I'm trapped there, and luckily across the street, CNN and Globovision from Brazil, 2 television stations, were filming, and they said the last man out of the World Trade Center was right there, last man out. And that's how they started looking through the rubble. And later on, hours after, I hear stuff being moved around. And I hear stuff, and I started screaming, help, help. And very far away I hear, are you okay, are you okay? And the only thing I said was, I lost my legs. Because you see, after running up so many stairwells and going in and out so many times, my knees gave up. And I broke my knee. I opened my knee from side to side. I was bleeding. But I couldn't feel my legs. So I thought at that moment that I have no legs, that probably the truck squashed my legs. And I'm screaming, help, help. And later, hours later, they pulled me from under the rubble. I remember seeing the fluorescent lines of the jacket of the fireman that pulled me out. They got me outside. I get oxygen. I see the word ambulance backwards. I get oxygen for 15 minutes. And what do? I run back to where the truck was. Run back. Incredible. I was protected. Why? Because I did not break a single bone. A single bone. And when I got back, that's the truck that they pulled me out from. The miracle was that, as you see here, the tires held up to the moment I was taken out. And then they blew out. If they waited 5 more minutes, I would have been squashed to death. So it was all at the nick of time. Then CNN on the area just pulled out from the rubble. They goes with the microphone. CNN, you have 30 seconds to go on the air and tell your story. 30 seconds. Go, go, go. I'm like, I'm still shaking. Shaking. And I went, well, there was a rumble, and there was another rumble, and I don't know what I said, but the thing is that that interview went around the world, and it was so powerful. Now, I tell you why it was so important. Remember when I hung up the phone with my mother is watching television and said, oh, I just finished with him. And then she sees the other plane on television hitting the other tower. She said, oh my God, now she doesn't know in what building her son is. And she started praying, oh, oh God, please take care of my son. And all of a sudden, the building falls down. And then she said, oh, let him be on the other building. And then the other building falls down. I almost lost my mother because of that. It was so painful for her, being alone in her house without nobody to help her, and to see on live television basically the death of her son. And she was like hoping, but then after hours she realized that, you know, there was no signal. But somebody saw me on television and called her house. We just saw your son on television. It's all over the news. And that was important, at least for the family closure. Yeah, after that, of course, become well-known everywhere. The story, they didn't believe it in the beginning. They take me to the White House. They recognize me at the the president recognized me. Then I started working and writing legislations because nobody was helping the victims. So I decided to write legislation. And why it's important was because everything you learn in life is important. Every single thing that you learn is, because from the 20 years that I cleaned the World Trade Center, 10 years, the first 10 years, I cleaned the office of the governor of New York. And I have to be the person that set up all the press conferences, put the water for the governor, and be bored to death, boring, in the middle of the legislation meetings that they had with a dustpan and broom in case there was an accident to pick it up. 10 years listening to garbage about politics. Little did I know was that I was being prepared. That I was being prepared because that knowledge, once that happened, all of a sudden I started writing laws and they passed. I said, wow, a janitor writing laws and they passing. This is great. So they wanted me to run for political office, and they started to call me for both parties, Republicans or Democrats. This is the man that is going to get the Latino Hispanic vote. We're talking about 30 million voters. And I said, after I learn all of this, all I'm going to do is use the knowledge to help the community. And that's what I did. They started to try to use the victims. We are victims. We are survivors. To start the war against Iraq. And we said, no, we don't want to be part of that, because they wanted to make a connection between Osama bin Laden and Saddam Hussein. Remember that? And we said, no, there's no connection. So, yeah, no, like, shut up. You have to agree with it. We say no. So what do? I do a march for peace against the war. And then I get totally criticized. Why? They say, how dare you, Mr. Rodriguez, using our soldiers to make a march about peace? So I felt so bad that I got criticized. So I said, okay, I won't do it again. I promise I won't do it again. But next week, I'm doing another march. But I promise I won't use soldiers. So you know what I did? I used officers. You see, because it was morally right. So that's why I became an activist. I started asking for an investigation about what happened on 9/11, the famous 9/11 Commission. I testified. I was one of the persons that basically got the whole process started. Became a media expert on 9/11 for all the media in the United States. And then I got invited to Malaysia, like the story that I told you, that they told me not to go to Malaysia. And it was wonderful because I met all these wonderful people there. I met Brother Ali. And it was an experience historical by itself, because it was the first time that a survivor of the event try to bridge and to connect with the Muslim community because it was being attacked. Islam was being attacked in a very unequal manner, and we wanted to do the right thing. Go to Venezuela. Venezuela got protected by Hugo Chavez's government, and then they started doing their re-encounter. Remember the police officer? He survived under the rubble himself. He was a cop that took out his gun and started shooting so people will find him under the rubble. This is the encounter for Telemundo. 30 million people saw this on television. And then, after that, Salvatore Gianbanco, the guy that was on the elevator with the other guy, the two people, this is the encounter for television. And then the reunion with Felipe. That was the most important one. The guy was in coma for 13 weeks. I remember in the beginning they didn't believe the story. So it was all these people coming one after the other and validating the event, how it went, that it created the whole media attention all over again. This is the encounter with Felipe. He wakes up from coma, calls NBC Telemundo and said, that's the guy, saw me on television, said, that's the guy that saved me. And that's how they did the encounter for television. And the conclusion is basically that what we learn from this, what we learn is that, you know, of course, it has been used in many different ways, but it's the human condition. We lost Muslims, we lost Christians, we lost every kind of religion on 9/11. And people don't talk about that. People talk about the buildings. People forget about our loss. We, as victims and survivors, believe that the only way we can have closure emotionally is by doing what we do right now. Trying to get the message all over the world, humanize the event, and remind them why, you know, the world changed on that day. Thank you for your time. I lost 200 friends on that day.
That's a lot.
That's a lot. And when people say 200 friends, yeah, but I worked 20 years in the building. That comes to 10 friends a year. Think about it, only 10 friends. And, and I have Muslim friends that died there. The bad thing was that when you go through the emotional inventory, because you don't know who died. Remember that people putting pictures all over the world trying to find their loved one because nobody knew what happened to them. It's just the process of trying to realize that they're not coming back or they were there that day is horrible. It's horrible.